Detroit is different. Detroit is different. I can feel it. Detroit is.
Welcome back to the Detroit is Different podcast studios. And in studio, I got a guest that I've been wanting to get on for a long time. You know, it's a lot of people you meet, but it's very few people you meet as a child. Like, it's like, damn, that kid is smart as all get out. You know what I'm saying? So definitely a long time. If we're talking kids, you all should already know I am, like many other Black children around the city of Detroit at one point in time, one of those gifted children that went to Aisha Shule. And she definitely is too. It's like a mom that was working there too, a brother, and so much more. Tierra Bills, how are you today?
I'm feeling good. It's pretty brisk outside, but I'm happy to be here.
I'm with it.
I'm really excited to join you today.
Okay, definitely. So we always start these stories, and her mom will be coming on this year too. So y'all gonna get even more background of it. So we gonna see how it aligns. But your family's journey here in the city of Detroit, how many generations deep?
Ooh, yeah. So my grandparents on both sides moved to Detroit. So on my mother's side, my grandmother, Mary Kelsey, she was from Indianapolis.
Okay.
So she moved her from Indianapolis. My grandfather on my mother's side, you know what? I believe that I know that they're from Georgia.
Okay.
I don't know if he was born in Detroit or if he moved to Detroit. He might have been born in Detroit. Yeah. But my grandfather, Dodie Kelsey, he was really where I got my sort of entrepreneurial spirit.
Okay.
And so we can talk a little bit about him, but he was fantastic, and he was a big starting point for our family here in Detroit.
Okay, definitely, and it carries over in the whole family, as I know it, as far as like doing business and conducting business and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So my aunt Gail O'Neill, and her husband, they kind of carry on the tradition. So the tax service that she runs now was originally my grandfather's tax service. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So now I got to get into Indianapolis. Do y'all still have family that way? It's still in Big Ten country.
Yes,
so
we do.
What was the switch from there to here, you think?
Yeah, you know what? So if I'm not mistaken, I think that just opportunities in Detroit, brought them from Indianapolis. Some of these stories, I actually, you have me thinking. Like, I'm not exactly sure what brought them to Detroit. And also, similarly on my father's side of my family. So my father, his family, they were from Chicago and before that from Tennessee. So he was actually born in Tennessee.
Okay.
And then my grandmother's from Montgomery, Alabama.
All right.
That side. So Mary Bills. Yes.
Yep. And as I always uplift, so many folks are from Georgia and Alabama. So you do got the roots there just through another city coming this way.
Yeah.
What side of town, what neighborhood do you remember as a child being like where your grandparents and them stayed? Where was they at?
Oh, yeah. So we were East Siders through and through. So my grandparents, they had a house over on Helen. So this would be in between Gratiot and Mac.
Okay.
Yeah. So kind of, probably in walking distance from the Heidelberg Project. And so my mom, my aunts and uncles, they grew up there. And then they sort of branched out further east.
Okay.
So probably from the age of about 7 or 8, we lived further east in Morningside area. So my mother and both of my aunts, they were in walking distance in Morningside.
All right. So family was east, and y'all even kind of packed everything else. Was the home over there like near the Heidelberg? I'm always like, okay, that's
so East Grand Boulevard. East Grand Boulevard and between East Grand Boulevard and kind of like Gratiot, because Gratiot runs at an angle.
Yeah.
And so we were in that area. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So with that, definitely the East Side roots and all of this stuff happening. I know her mom, so I know some of that story. But
Yeah.
so I would just jump the gun into your mom,
Yeah.
teacher, educator, how I remember as a child. Definitely, I know a good part of your life, she was there. What was that like growing up with not just your mom being a teacher, but your mom being a teacher at a school you attended?
Oh boy, yeah. So my mother, she is. I mean, she continues to be a trailblazer, right?
Mhm.
Like she is a veteran elementary school teacher. She started teaching in Head Start. And so she's, been teaching for more than 40 years at this point. And so
Wow.
she started at Head Start and then from there started teaching at Aisha Shule and
Mhm.
brought my brother and I along with her. So
Yep.
I was actually at the Shule too early. I was in preschool, I think, for 2 years because, there was nowhere else for me to go. So she's
Uh-huh.
like, I'm here, you gotta be here too. So at 2
Mhm.
and a half, I started preschool at Aisha Shule. Um, and yeah, so we started out in that small building
Mhm.
on the campus of
Lewis
Lewis
College of
College of
Business.
Business.
Yep.
And my mom she was my teacher at least twice. I mean, it might have been more than twice, but she was my first grade teacher.
Mhm.
I believe she was she was my preschool teacher, first grade teacher, and my I want to say third and fourth grade as well, because sometimes the classes
Yeah.
were together. And so yeah, it was an experience.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how many people have had that experience, your parents teaching you,
Yep.
but it was like, okay, on the Q's and T's. And I just remember, it being a responsibility. Like you are the daughter of one of the Walimu here, one of the Walimu meaning teacher in Swahili. You're one of the daughters of, the staff person. Like
Yeah.
you need to, demonstrate
Mhm.
that that what the protocol is and how you should be behave. And yeah, so I remember that side of it, just feeling sort of the
Mhm.
responsibility of and I don't want to say that it was a burden or anything. I think
Mhm.
that it was just at a young age I remember feeling that like,
Yeah.
okay, well, you can't do what everyone else does.
Yes.
You have to set the tone. And also it gave me another lens, like, because I was always at the Shule, right? So
Mhm.
I got to see all the behind the scenes and
Mhm.
I was helping, putting the classrooms together and
Mhm.
organizing things. I was helping decorate and, what about teachers, they spend a lot of time curating their classroom space. So I was a big
Mhm.
part of that. And I mean, really just everything that went on at the Shule, I was part of the, the Shule babies, as they call them. Like we were just always
Mhm.
there. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I didn't even know that until you shared that
Yeah.
because, like I say, like even as a child, it was like, okay, she's at that pace, but I never really saw it from the lens of your mom's here, and I never saw it as like you started way earlier than other students.
I
You know?
did. And I have like uh memories of points in time where it's like, yeah, I was at the Shule a lot, sometimes on weekends. I was there, perhaps a little early before school started. I was
Yeah.
there certainly later after
Yeah.
school was over. I was still there,
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that was a big it was a big feature of my life. It really shaped sort of my childhood, spending a lot of time at the school. And
Mhm.
also, slowly but surely the principles of the school seeping in. And now it's like I look back like this should be automatic. Some of these things that we learn about the importance of African-centered education, learning our history, reading our writers and understanding, who the people are in our community that are the leaders and that we should be looking up to. So African dance, being involved in this very rich culture of African dance that is in the city of Detroit and that has
Mhm.
been for a long time. And we can talk about that as well. My aunt, Carol Butler, was actually the first person in our family to start studying African dance.
Hmm.
And I'm going to forget the name of the book, but there's a book that talks about, I think it actually focuses on jazz in Detroit.
Mhm.
There's a picture of her
Okay.
in this book. And if I can find it, I'll go back and
Let me know.
pull up the exact book. But yeah, so I've, as an adult, I'm learning those stories. Like, where did we start doing that? Because, I dance. All of my cousins, Milano, Olanda, Terry, they dance. My mom she would bring me to dance classes with her. So she started dancing. And I think at the time I was very young. I was even, too young to be in the dance troupe at the Aisha Shule. But I would go to dance classes with my mom. And very slowly, I think she started sending me to children's classes, and I was, starting to pick up dance very early. So I must have been, maybe 4 or 5 when I started dancing.
Okay, and even more, like I say, as a kid, this is different. But I do want to uplift a couple different points that you already kind of touched on. But first, I'm going to start with one of the neighbors from my neighborhood. Aisha Shule had many matriarchs, different leaders that were there, but no one more present with the youngest of people than Mama Easter.
Mama Easter ready.
Right. And definitely like my cousin Kaylin. It's a couple people where it's just like, they was like Mama Easter kids. You know what I'm saying? What was that like for anybody that knows? I think one of the key I don't even know what, I guess I'm going to say like key figures in like all of Aisha Shule when it comes to a lot of things in leadership was Mama Easter. Because it's like Mama Easter was rolling in and she had like a posse of little homies with her all the time. It was like could like capture the attention of almost everybody with not what you would usually assume, like, everybody sit down or anything like that.
No, Mama Easter ready. She was a big feature in my childhood. She was my preschool teacher, and she was at the school for many years, through my graduation. So I was started as a preschooler, graduated in the 12th grade from high school. She was there. And I feel like, I grew up with her grandchildren, and she had her daughter. She was, like one of the Shule mamas, right? And so, really like family, like a lot of the mamas and babas, teachers at the school, they're like family members. And Mama Easter, she's a very special person, right? She had this amazing personality. Right. So just, great sense of humor, very stern, but loving at the same time. Right. So she was one of those, big women with big hearts. I mean, she was, small in stature. She's a small lady, but she had a big heart, and she played a big role in so many of the lives of the students who came through the Shule.
Definitely, because I just always remember that connection. And similar to like what you spoke to with your mom, like I think the if you're teaching younger children, which I don't have a lot of experience in that per se, but it's got to be more interactive. It has to be more colorful. It has to be more creative. And she walked in and just like. It's hard to explain, but it's very much like one of those
decades. And she ran a tight ship. She trained many teachers in, how to work with young children. And she worked with everyone. As I understand it, she also fostered many children.
Yes.
I can remember many of them, being students at the Shule at points in time. And so she played a big role in her community. And she was always serving. Even through her role as teaching at the Shule. So that's one of the things I remember about her, just like the big presence that this, small lady had on so many people. It's really remarkable when you think about it. Yeah.
Okay, so now we can just talk African-centered education itself, because so much of this is just naturally, you're starting school so young, you don't know anything otherwise.
Right.
When does it kind of start hitting you that like, okay, this is a lot different than like some of the kids in the neighborhood or on the block or what they're getting?
Yeah. So let me think. So I think I would say 2 things that stand out to me. One, point when I was, younger, and one when I graduated from high school and went on to school. So when I was younger, I think I mentioned, so I studied African dance. I started at a very young age. Eventually, I started dancing with the dance troupe at Aisha Shule. And what that means is that, during certain times of year, we're like on the circuit. So during Kwanzaa, we're performing everywhere, all over the city, City Hall, the Black Business Enterprise, so we're performing everywhere, and we're performing at schools, right? And so we get to perform on stage at other schools and interact with the students, and sort of just recognizing the impact that we would have and how we were exposing other students to a part of culture that they probably had not been exposed to before, and that being something that we were able to participate in every year. And so for me, through dancing, it became clear, like, yeah, we're quite different than a lot of schools. The other thing I will say is, at Aisha Shule, there were many rituals that were instilled in us, and so we had assemblies where we said pledges about, remembering our ancestors, and, thinking Black, buying Black, praying Black, loving Black, and basically just instilling in us a love for ourselves and our culture and our history, teaching us that our history did not start with slavery. And that being just a regular part of the curriculum, right? Like, I can remember in middle school and high school, in high school in particular, having, African humanities and studying about African philosophy and scholars and reading their texts and their literature. And this was just a natural thing. So fast forward to college, and my first year, I went to Florida Agricultural Mechanical University, FAMU. And my first year taking my introductory courses and, taking African American history, and just how much of a breeze it was, because this is stuff that we've been learning all of our lives, right? Also, reading and writing. So literacy, obviously, this is important for any school, but I felt particularly prepared for college. I can remember just, sitting amongst my peers and thinking, wow, they really prepared us well, because I didn't have any problems, with, doing well in school and in humanities and the writing and so forth. So I just remember, thinking, like, goodness, we've been blessed to have this institution that has taught us about who we are, and that has, taught us and educated us in a way that we're both connecting with our history and our people and our culture, as well as, meeting and exceeding, the requirements for, say, high school proficiency and so forth. So we were very well prepared. And, this is something that, should not be a surprise, but I was just amazed, right? Like, this little school, that, I can remember the school being much smaller than other schools that you would think about, elementary and high school schools, because it started out as a private school, then charter. But this small school has produced some amazing, people, some amazing leaders. So those are the things that I would say. Just being able to perform about the city, and doing something that I love, doing something that was, training and conditioning and education in and of itself. But also just remarking on my experience and my teachings and what I had learned and how well I had been prepared once I got to the college level. Yeah.
Definitely. As you talk about, like, some of the scholars, and it's two that stand out. You're one, and then obviously Malika Pryor is Malika. Like, as far as, like, it's like, damn, Malika smart as all get up. You know what I'm saying? And it's not saying that was not, those same talents weren't present in other spaces and disciplines, but like almost like a person's just like off the charts with things.
Well, hey, I am honored to be, discussed at the same level as my good sister, Malika. She's fantastic.
Talk
He
about
is
it.
fantastic.
Talk about it. And then also, just like speaking about like learning and cultures and everything, there at the Shule, it's not like we had like first and second grade. It was like the Maasais, Kushites,
Exactly. We were
Dogons. So like
named after.
we're
Yeah.
learning tribes and traditions just even through like the class that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and these are things that were just a part of the structure and the organization of the school. So each of the grades were, we had our grade levels, but we were named after African tribes. So we had the Maasai, we had the Nubians, we had the Kemites, we had the Ashanti.
Yeah.
And then when you got to the 12th grade, you were Taifa and Pia. So, and I'm gonna mess myself up. I can't think of exactly what it is, but it's a new nation, right? So it's preparing our youth to become the new nation.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
And you've already kind of dipped your toe from an African Center School to HBCU, and one of
That's right.
you can get a lot of discussions because I know people often lift up Howard, people lift up Spelman and Morehouse, but FAMU is one heck of an institution in a lot of different things. I was talking to Khalil. Shout out to Khalil and like their media program and broadcast, but it's a couple things where FAMU is just like one of the leading institutions in the world on.
Absolutely.
Why did you choose FAMU? What was the thought process of going there?
Oh boy. So, at that age, I knew that I wanted to have an opportunity to sort of go out on my own. And as much as I love Detroit, I didn't want to stay in Michigan to go to school. And we can talk about whether that was a good decision or not. But
I'm gonna say like as right now, we're in the end of December, so like anybody that's choosing Tallahassee over this today, it probably is an amazing decision.
There are strengths. There are certainly strengths, and I think it was all good. I chose to go to FAM because in the beginning I was looking to study architecture, and I knew they had a very strong architectural program. There were also two other Aisha Shule graduates, so Carla and Ayana. Were students at FAMU, and so I felt like, okay, I can go to FAM, I can study architecture at this HBCU that has a very strong program, and I can be close to my big sisters, right? So, for me, that was really it. And when I got there, of course, it's just a series of decisions. So I joined the FAMU concert choir. That was a very sort of central part of my time there at FAMU. I started in architecture, and then I ended up switching to engineering, civil engineering technology. And yeah, I think I could probably spend the whole interview talking about my experience at FAMU. But what I will say is, as someone who is still in education, like I am, the number one sort of proponent of HBCUs and the role that it plays in educating our youth. And, the main thing I will say is because of the attention, right? Because the faculty and the staff there are really, they're not going to let students fall in between the cracks, right? They're going to make sure that students are seen, that students have what they need. They recognize the role that they play in terms of like, a second family, right? And so it's more than education. It's about, okay, we're sending our children, to you all, and they understand the assignment. They're like, we're receiving your children, we're educating them, we're going to make sure that they have what they need, and we're going to send them off, to do bigger and better things and then at the next stage of their lives. So I feel like that is the energy that HBCUs bring to education that you don't find elsewhere, right?
All right. And so there, Tallahassee, people know it. Really, it's
the highest of 7 hills, yes.
It's like a college town because it's like FAMU and Florida State both there.
That's right.
And it is Florida. You know what I'm saying? So,
It's Florida. It's Panhandle, Florida. So the humidity is thick.
Yes.
And there's no reprieve from the ocean or anything like that. So you're just in it, in the sun and in the humidity. Yes.
And I got a lot of family in Florida. It's like the whole state of Florida feel like a swamp sometimes. It's like, hot as all.
Ooh,
That-
yes.
yes, the
Yeah, I
Maroons
was
and the
there.
Seminoles was.
Right. I was there for 5 years,
Hmm.
and yeah, I remember each year. I
Hmm.
remember each year. I remember, the excitement of being on campus. I remember um, just kind of learning and growing, and the energy that you have at that age. The excitement about the future and the next step. I was also, I think, more pragmatic about school. I recognize that, okay, I want to make sure that I use this time to learn and train, learn as much as I can.
Hmm.
Will I actually stay
In this
in the
field.
domain, in the field? I don't know. It turns out that I'm in an adjacent field now. I'm in transportation engineering, which is one of the civil disciplines. But at the time, I just knew that, okay, I'm artistic. I like to draw. I like to craft. I like to paint. But I'm also, I like math. I'm good at math.
Very
And
much so.
so I tried to find an area that would allow me to combine these things. And I'm also, inquisitive. And so I was very interested in research. Even as a undergraduate student, I ended up joining a group in the civil engineering technology program. It was a research group.
Mm.
And my undergraduate advisor, so I joined his group studying traffic safety and traffic safety interventions. Um, this is an area where you're trying to understand how to improve safety outcomes by understanding the behaviors around using safety restraints.
Mhm.
So we did surveys and analyses, and we did campaigns to try to encourage people to use their safety restraint. I feel like that. So I was a researcher. I was in concert choir. I was in my degree.
Mm.
I was also part of the Michigan Club, which is a big part of what I did there.
Mhm.
So yeah, I tried to be quite involved, but yeah, I think that there's just no other place, right? There is a place like no other where you're allowed to grow, understand, find opportunities to grow, find opportunities to learn about what are the things that you like, so that you can make a better decision at that next step.
All right, so I definitely want to kind of get into a little bit of that civil engineering.
Yeah.
I can be a nerd about many of things, but for a lot of you Detroiters now, like where we understand like certain things change over, like here, it's a couple exits like this, like Telegraph, like 14 Mile and 75, where they do you guys have seen it, where like you're driving towards traffic, then it swerves out and everything. So like, I know Detroit's like, when the hell did this happen? I know that's how I
Yeah.
was, but like a lot of these things, and I didn't find out till working on, it was another project that I was working on, and it was talking about like a lot of these bike lanes, studying things. So like the knowing how to research things, how people interpret things, but also culturally being connected to like whatever's happening in that community can decide where things go. Like even, like the Lord knows I got a light up here that's like the longest light on earth, but a lot of that stuff is kind of, it's a lot of data, research, what's going to impact human behavior in certain ways, that kind of goes into that. What was it about the civil engineering that was like, I kind of want to connect with this? Also being aware of FAMU has a strong history of not just politicians themselves, but a lot of, I definitely would say like a lot of those southern cities and states and stuff, like a lot of the staffers are people that went from, that are from FAMU.
They're from Florida, they're from local areas.
Yeah. So yeah, that education kind of carries. What was it that kind of piqued your interest into it? What was your thought process?
Yeah. So I started participating in the transportation research group. And as a result, I was able to qualify for fellowships, and so I was earning funding for school to pay for tuition and so forth. And I also was given an opportunity to travel to a conference, a transportation conference. It's called the Transportation Research Board Annual Meeting, and it's one of the largest convening of transportation engineers, practitioners, everyone who's working transportation adjacent, they attend this conference every year. And as a result of that, participating in this conference, getting to see all of the different sides of transportation, all that goes into the many tasks of moving people and goods in a safe and efficient way. It just sort of, it was mind-blowing, to understand how all of these things work together to help transport people and goods that is ultimately connected to the economy and the gross national product. Our ability to participate in economic activity, our ability to move freight and goods, to society, to points of distribution. All of this is what sort of makes the economy move and the economy work. And so recognizing, the role that traffic safety and design of transit systems and design of highway networks and regions, understanding how all of this sort of works together was for me a very exciting thing. And I knew that I wanted to learn more about how this is done. And so in undergrad, I participated in the research opportunity. I was a part of the I wrote an honors thesis, undergraduate honors thesis, and I talked about my work with traffic safety and safety restraint analysis. And I applied to grad school. So from there, I guess I sort of pivoted from what I thought what I would be doing, which is housing renovation. So I thought I would go into construction and housing renovation, come back to Detroit and
buy the block.
My aunties, buy the block. My aunties were like, "When are you gonna build me a house?"
Hilarious.
Like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. So I went on to grad school from FAMU. I applied to several schools and landed at UC Berkeley.
Okay.
So I did master's and PhD at UC Berkeley.
What era, what years are you making that transition?
So I graduated from FAM in 2008.
Okay.
I got my master's in 2009 and PhD 2013.
Okay. All right. Now, during that time, as it's often uplifted and it's, I know for certain Detroiters, like I say, I'm a nerd about drinking in a lot of stuff sometimes. From time to time, it's a lot of stuff in my head. But one of the pressing things, especially like during that time while you're in grad school and getting PhD, transportation is kind of shifting into what they call mobility.
Yeah.
So like even, like the big three, it's like, they're, General Motors will say, we're a mobility company. And you're like, what the hell is mobility?
Yes.
So like mobility, and Detroit even has like a mobility manager or whatever, but it's kind of the thought process of like, okay, you own a car, you like drive to like a subway hub, and then you get your bike and put it like on the back of the subway, and then you get off the subway stop and you ride your bike to, wherever you ride your bike to, then you walk to wherever you go. So it's like all of those points kind of connecting. A lot of this really, I think, crystallizes and comes to light during, and I guess this is kind of in that same transition where if you're young, you probably have no idea about this, but there was a point in time where there was no Uber or Lyft.
Exactly. Right.
So back then you were either taxi or asking a person to drop you off somewhere or anything.
Carpooling, perhaps.
Yes, carpooling. But a lot of that starts transitioning in that time where you're there.
Yeah.
What was just being like on the ground? What was like some of the professors' take? What was your take? What was kind of some of the discussions in the field about a lot of this shifting towards mobility and why?
Yeah, so I think that kind of gradually happened, for me, like starting in grad school and then onward. So the way I would describe it is that there is sort of a rebranding of transportation industry where they're moving from, just being auto manufacturers and, selling cars to, technology companies. So integrating technology and now being providers of not just cars, but the other types of technology, software, what have you, that help people to move, help goods to move, and so forth. So I think it's, primarily a rebranding, and it's, in many ways, I want to think about what this means for society, I think probably the takeaway is that it kind of shifts the focus away from, just having transportation center around cars to thinking about transportation as a system. And the reality that, for some people, it is about owning a car, right?
Yeah.
Because, class is associated with a car. Your standing in society, if you have a car, it's like, you're one step above. But, the reality is that you're trying to get to places where you need to go, right? So, for me, it's about accessibility. It's about, how easy can I get to my desired destinations? How easy can I get to work? How easy can I get to, my mom's or my cousins, or, how easy can I get to downtown recreational activities? So it's about getting to the destinations, right? The need or the purpose of travel as opposed to the means of travel. And so for me, I think that is the most important thing, is shifting away from transportation being all about cars to about what you're trying to do with those cars, the activities that you're trying to satisfy. And that's how we, talk about things in travel behavior research. We talk about the activity patterns and the needs for traveling. So you're trying to get to work. You're trying to, hang out with your friends. You're trying to go out at night. You're trying to get to restaurants. You're trying to engage in activities. The means of doing that in some cities is very auto-oriented, but in other cities it's not. If you're in San Francisco, you're in DC, you're in Chicago, you're in parts of, these major cities, you can get many places very easily on transit using Uber and Lyft, perhaps, using micromobility, which is, e-scooters and e-bikes and so the little electrical scooters that people ride. Yeah. So, those are sort of what we call dockless systems, where you can just pick one up. If you have the app, you can, pay for the fare and take it to your next place and just drop it off wherever you are, right? So it's a kind of a end-to-end sort of system. So anyway, so I think that's the most important thing. So the branding has been all about mobility and mobility as a service. Maybe you've heard these terms, but I think that the takeaway is that, the emphasis should be on, can you get to the places that you need to go so that you can, satisfy your needs and the needs of your community and so forth.
So definitely, and I guess that would be like probably like the year you graduate, like maybe 13 to like 17. Those scooters are most majors, like almost everywhere. It's like, you see like 6 of them like stacked up. And then if you ever been out late enough, you'll see like a van picking up a bunch of them. And the relationship with those, actually it's a contract of a Black company here in Detroit that are looking to add that, because all of this still gives back to like civil engineering. You have to have relationships with the city. It's liability with a lot of this stuff. Like, it's not as simple as like, hey, we just gonna drop off a bunch of bikes somewhere. People gonna pick it up. Like, it's other steps into it. And California itself, and it blows your mind. Like, sometimes you see stuff in other places, but California has these carts that like you'll order food, it'll drive like. It's weird. It's like
so
almost what's the maid on the Jetsons or something.
That's right.
It's like
on campus. So we haven't gotten to that. So but at UCLA where I work, you can order pizza food via robot. So there's an app just like Uber and Lyft. You get on there and you say, I'm here.
Yep.
I want to deliver to this pickup spot. And so it coordinates where you pay for your food. The robot picks up the food, brings it to the pickup spot. You walk out, have a code, you reach in, receive your food, and then go about your business.
Yeah. So
that's mobility. It's not just about, you traveling somewhere. It's about addressing your needs. Right. Right. So, in many cases, it's more optimal for a robot to bring it to you, deliver it to you, than for you to be traveling out to.
And stuff like that. Just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just turned 40. It just like, it blows your mind because you're like, what the hell is that?
Yeah, it's new. And you know what? It's all very new. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like, this is standardized by any means. In many ways, these are still kind of pilots and experimentation. And because there's a lot of work that needs to be done in terms of like how our everyday person is going to receive, robots rolling up and down the street or
Yeah.
and so, there's still lots of study on sort of interactions between these types of technologies and people.
And that's what I was going to ask, because even with the scooters, a lot of data, I mean, obviously it's tracking a lot of data. What are like, and I guess it's multiple interests, because it's like the business interest, then you got like, I guess, political interests, and then just human interest itself. What are like a lot of people just kind of looking for in the research that as the information is being gathered?
Yeah, so this is a great question. I think that as society we're kind of used to this idea of sharing data. The cell phones that we all carry.
Yeah.
If you want to use Google Maps, you're using that free service in exchange for data, right? So they get access to your data, they package it up, they monetize it by selling it to third-party companies, right? And these companies, they provide data on travel activities to planning agencies. There's lots of different ways that the data are used. It's used for marketing analysis and so forth. And so, you're right that there are these different sort of stakeholders, you can call them. And, on the people side, we're the consumers. We're using the technology. We're generating the data. And, our decisions are also generating data. We're ordering, supplies and so forth. That's stimulating data that is generated from freight and all that kind of stuff. So you have the industries who they want to provide the technology. They want to be able to make use of the data as new products, to package it into new products. And then you have planning agencies, right? So in transportation, we have public agencies that are responsible for carrying out the planning exercises. So fixing the roads, if traffic congestion is increasing, they are going to figure out, okay, how might we need to, construct improvements to the infrastructure or introduce some sort of traffic control to help manage traffic. So they're doing planning work periodically. And in the Detroit area, that's SCAG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments. It's a metropolitan planning organization that's responsible for transportation planning. And so you have these different stakeholders, and we're in this age of big data, right? What does that mean? That means that we're using lots of technology that produces lots of data that can be used for various purposes. So we won't have to go out and manually collect data, because we are, by nature of us using these technologies,
devices,
it's generating lots of data that we can then make use of for different purposes. In transportation, we're trying to figure out, okay, what do the traffic patterns look like? Right? Where are people going? How many people? What are the traffic volumes? What share of travelers are using different modes of transportation, right? And then by extension, we can do planning. We can ask questions like, if we change something about the transportation system, who's going to ride this new service, right?
Yeah.
How is it going to change demand? And so we're doing this type of analysis with the data so that we can do predictions that help with modeling. And that's the type of work that I do. I work with travel forecasting, understanding travel behavior, working with a lot of those different data sources, a mixture of things, survey data, and to an extent, some of the big data and say passive data. To understand mobility patterns so that we can effectively plan for future transportation services.
And as you say that, I definitely know it's a group of people that's like, see, it's everything changing, and it is it definitely, especially when it comes to a lot of the AI technologies, what it does and its impact with water or the cooling. That's impacting. But also, I'm wanting to uplift, I always jokingly say, like, as the car was coming out, it was somebody with a horse and carriage, like, oh, I'll never get one of those things. Like, things change.
Technology changes rapidly.
Very, very much so. And it definitely, you Detroiters completely understand this, because as we say, it's like 2 seasons. It's like either cold or it's construction season. And sometimes it runs into both. But right now, me being off Davison, and this is really impacting a lot of the freeways where like 696 is just closed. But this is a lot of like the engineering that goes on, like like the detour signs, even though I swear those detour signs never really take you to where it's supposed to go or whatever. But this is it's a lot that kind of goes into that. So that's one project. And then another one that definitely is on the hearts and minds of so many Black folks here, but the I-375 project, where it'll be raised again, where formerly Black Bottom was, and now it'll be come back to a term, a walkable community. So it's what does that mean? How does that impact? How are these decisions being made? It's a lot of
So all of these things are connected. The transportation planning process is one thing. It's something that sort of continues to run. So you have practitioners and engineers and planners there. They're doing analyses. They're trying to understand what the needs are. They're doing community engagement. They're asking people. They're taking a look at the best data that they have available, and they're trying to understand what the needs are, and then come up with potential solutions. And this is something that happens every 4 to 5 years. So the region will put together literally a list of projects that is the outcome of engagement plus analysis that they put forth for funding. One of the things that you mentioned, I think this is important. So, engineers and planners, we don't always get it right? So this is one of the things that I'm really interested in. How can we do a better job of making sure that the plans that we put together, the infrastructure that we build, aligns with community needs, and is inclusive of everyone's needs, and not just the dominant population or the dominant travel patterns. And so the projects where we have these, construction projects. We have, I-375. We have, the 94, so, bridge reconstruction and renovations. This disrupts, traffic flow. It disrupts everyday travel. And, in the long run, the hope is that everyone will benefit from this and things will, improve. But you're talking about projects that can last, construction can last, 5-10 years, right? In that time frame, people are being cut off from amenities. They have to do detours. If there's not proper management of those construction sites, you can have safety hazards that pop up. You can have what we call like signal spillover, where traffic is so backed up that it spills into, a downstream traffic signal. So it's blocking up that adjacent traffic intersection. So there can be lots of problems that happen if that is not managed. And the reality is that in some communities, construction projects are managed very well. Things are nice and clean. There's proper signage so people know where to go. They're less likely to be cut off from like essential amenities. But, in Detroit, my sort of anecdotal experience is that that's not the case, that we have to do a much better job of managing transportation projects such that we're not completely disrupting the lives of community members and causing sort of, unsafe driving behaviors because of improper management. Yeah.
And as you speak about that, like, definitely it also impacts, as you said, like, my business hat. It impacts a lot of businesses because
Absolutely.
Even if a construction project is like 1 year, I've had friends have to close the doors of their business because, and I mean, I'm not necessarily saying I'm not gonna be the person to do this, but if you're, if like your business is like, oh, I'm right here off 696, you gonna come, you know what I'm saying? It's perfect. But now it's like, okay, that'll be shut down for a year and a half, and I have to, now, rearrange how I would get to you. I'm not gonna get to you the same way. How that happens, when that happens, in adjusting for this, because oftentimes it's like, all right, you kind of just got to grit your teeth and bear it. Hence, that's even like one of the shout out to April and a lot of stuff, but like Light Up Liver Noise, that the program that they started where they do a series of events was just associated with the removal of the median that had just. It was just tougher to get down Livernois. So a lot of those businesses are like, man, what can we do? You know what I'm saying? Let's come together and let's try to do something, because if not, I'm going out of business.
Yeah. And a lot of the work that I do is called infrastructure impact assessment. And so that, it moves beyond transportation. But when it comes to transportation, these are the impacts that that we need to be aware of. And really, the mechanism for making sure that planners know this far ahead of time are the community engagement activities. And so these public meetings, they seem boring at face value.
You got that right.
Sometimes you can have some strange folks come out with some strange ideas.
Anytime it's a public forum and you don't have that, then you know something's off.
It can be a lot going on.
Yes.
Nevertheless, these are the mechanisms for making sure that planners and practitioners, when they are trying to figure out, how to go about design. So this is the project planning level. This is the opportunity to say, hey, all of our businesses are going to be impacted. This is going to drive down our revenues, is going to affect our livelihoods. I'm a type of researcher that comes up with measures, like what are the ways that we can develop indicators of these types of impacts on communities so that we can integrate them into the planning process. Because the reality is that we should not be designing things that are going to completely disrupt the lives, overly so of communities, of, in many cases, more vulnerable communities. And that's the type of work that I do, where we find that time and time again, those who are, bearing the worst impacts are those who are also most vulnerable. So it's like, goodness, like folks are already struggling, and we're gonna pay attention to their needs, and we're going to just go about, this project without making sure that they're taken care of, that we're not cutting them off from the limited job opportunities that they already have, or what have you. So this is very important. And so, so when you say that, I just think about how, as engineers and planners, we're not doing a good job of making sure that we're integrating understandings of community needs into the planning and design processes.
Very much so. And another thing to even uplift, Detroit is just such an auto city. So even as the Gordie Howe Bridge is a classic example. That's been like maybe a 5-year project for that whole Southwest community that already deals with a lot of things. But even I'm a past truck driver, as y'all should know, but truck routes also play a big role, and not just so it's like pollution, noise pollution, but also the roads themselves. And a lot of people don't know this. I mean, I know it because as a truck driver. So like the weight requirements in Michigan are much higher because, the industry that was here. So like in Ohio, I want to say the limit's like 60,000, 55,000 tons of weight, and hence you got like the CAT scales. As a driver, you're supposed to
weigh stations.
You got to get weighed all the time. But so technically, when you like drive in, especially like from Ohio, 75, like all those warehouses. So I got 55,000, and I'm gonna stop in this warehouse in Monroe, pick up the additional to get up to like 75,000 or 80,000, and then I can kind of keep going. Those trucks start driving down these different roads. That clearly has impacts on what's happening with the ground, along with
grading of infrastructure. If trucks are, if there's poor management, and for whatever reason they're on roadways that they should not be.
It's
a connection to environmental consequences. I mean, the other thing that I think that people maybe know but have not, don't understand the magnitude. So, in the Detroit area, so combining the Ambassador Bridge and the bridge, I think there's a new bridge.
The Gordie Howe.
Yes,
that's
right.
Yep.
You combine those two bridges, the freight that traverses the Southeast Michigan area in Canada, that accounts for about a quarter of the trade, of all trade. With Canada. So we're talking about a massive, sort of bottleneck of freight that comes from across the country to Detroit and then crosses one of these bridges, right? So it's a huge thoroughfare for trade in Canada. And I think, last estimates, which was probably like 2010, something like 300 billion in trade, right?
Yeah, it's the busiest American port.
Yeah, absolutely.
And a lot of us don't think about it like that. Even the Detroiters that have been here for a long time, because you're not but if you go by there, you're gonna always be seeing these trucks. And now with an additional crossing, even more so, we're gonna see what's happening. And it's definitely been a whole to do because Matty Maroon is the person that owns that bridge, but he's not gonna own this other bridge. But clearly that's gonna cut all types of profits from him and all the stuff that happens. So it's deeper, but this all kind of impacts. And even just as that truck driver, this happens probably like once a year or something. You all may not even pay attention, but each bridge has like a height that it is, so you know what you should drive through or what shouldn't. But usually, almost like I say, once a year, it's gonna be a truck that tries to drive through, messes up the bridge, and now you got to shut the bridge down and redo the bridge because that, and sometimes that's just trucker error of getting caught in, thinking, I'm gonna go over here and try to make this happen instead of going here.
Yeah. And, these are truckers coming from all over the country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah. So, Detroit is a big deal in terms of freight and trade with Canada. So trucks coming across that bridge. And I think a lot about the communities that live adjacent, to these huge, interchanges, right? Yeah. I think back in 2010, they redid the interchange so the highway interchange for the Ambassador Bridge. And even as like a very early graduate student, I was thinking about what are the environmental ramifications for communities that live right there. So that's, Southwest Detroit.
Yeah.
Right. So this holds, I think about 64% of the Hispanic population in the area. Right. Yeah. And so, while they may or may not be benefiting from all of that freight, all of that business is happening, they are absorbing, the brunt end of all of the environmental consequences. And so these are the things that, I think a lot about. How do we make sure that we are aware of the community impacts, right? And it's like, we're need to be talking to communities, but we also need to be thinking and reflecting on, okay, if we have, potentially vulnerable communities adjacent to these massive projects, we need to make sure that we are aware of the impacts and we are prepared to mitigate negative impacts, right? Or compensate people for their inconvenience, right?
Yeah. And this has been present really kind of like I would say Southwest Detroit all the way through, like I consider like downriver, like River Rouge, where you see everything that's happening. And I mean, clearly, and Teresa Landrum, shout out to Teresa. She's going to be on here, one of the key activists in that Southwest footprint. But, you look at the asthma rates, you look at cancer rates, all of this, it plays a factor in those communities because all of the industry and all of these things kind of happen in which kind of go back to a lot of the roots of the work you do, which I got two other questions kind of in that same space.
Absolutely.
So the first one is, and I'm guessing this one, but how many young Black women are in this field to begin with?
Oh boy. So let's see. So I'm a transportation engineer. And I will say in terms of faculty, I mean, I don't know what the numbers are. It's small. When I was at Wayne State, so I taught for 3 years at Wayne State University here. I was the only Black female professor in the College of Engineering.
Wow.
Out of about 200 faculty.
Wow.
I was only tenure track faculty, Black female. When I joined UCLA, there was one Black female adjunct professor. There were no other Black female professors in the College of Engineering at UCLA. Now we have more.
Okay.
But when I joined that first year, I was the only one.
So I definitely think that plays a role. And then the other thing with UCLA, back to like my trucking. Thank God I didn't have to truck out there. But like it's a couple cities where just the traffic is like, Atlanta's becoming it, depending on the time of day. But DC, and I think some of that definitely is like, that's another city that I really think is like a swamp. But the other one being where LA traffic is different.
It's different. It's different. It's on a massive scale. So traffic, it follows, demand. So the places and the locations that are going to be most congested are places that are kind of sit in between where most of the people live and where most of the people work. And so in LA, the thing that is different is that one, it's just a massive, the size of the city is massive, right? LA is literally a city of cities, right? And so a lot of small cities within the city of LA. And, people are coming from the north, from the west, from the east. They're coming to downtown, but they're also, they have reverse commute patterns that can be very congested. So, the land use will be the sort of the relationships between where people work and where they live. All of this is going to look different for each city. And this is going to impact the traffic congestion that you see. If you have cities that are more centralized, like think about Chicago, where the basic dominant pattern is that it's a radial sort of land use pattern where you have the downtown area and the neighborhoods sort of radiate out from the downtown area, which is right off of Lake Michigan, right? And so the patterns are going to be more centralized, right? There might be what you call edge cities, which are sort of like high density pockets of retail and jobs and in more suburban areas. One example might be Birmingham, or was it Roseville area? Yeah. So these are suburbs, but you can call them edge cities because they have like very dense or semi-dense sort of retail and malls and things like that. And then you have homes and things living around them. So we call those edge cities because you could have smaller patterns where people are just traveling to those areas rather than coming to downtown. So the point is that land use, where people live, this affects traffic congestion. That's why it looks very different in each city. In LA, it's just complicated because there's so many people and they're coming from everywhere. In Detroit, it's still, I would say, probably like, two main sort of patterns where it's mostly central. People are coming in from outside areas to downtown Detroit in the morning commute, and then the reverse in the afternoon. But then you have, like, if you look at a map, there's like a big hub that's clustered like Troy and, those places. That's a very sort of, dense retail and employment area as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like, certain times a day, just my Detroit is like, okay, I would hate to be on 75 going north.
Gracious.
Anytime like 4:30 to like 5:30, and then it just seems like maybe like, I don't know, 3:30 to 6:30. Some of those pockets are 94, and it's so interesting because it's really like kind of where the Lodge and 94 intersect. So it's like a couple exits
it's a lot
east
of
and a couple west,
ramps
where
and off
like,
ramps and that is like, I mean, really any time of day, that's like the worst place to be because it's right between two, like there's I-75, which is interstate, but there's the Lodge is basically a state road. It's a major state road, and so the on ramps and on ramps, that's
constantly. So as you've like kind of become more aware, working with this, what has been some of the things that has like really piqued more your interest? You definitely spoke to advocating for a lot of the communities, especially what they couldn't speak up for, and taking what you know. What's been like one of the driving things to still trigger so much of, already what a beautiful mind is,
So, I'll take this opportunity to tell a little bit about what I do. So I'm a university professor. I work at UCLA. I teach in civil environmental engineering, and public policy. I'm a transportation engineer, and in transportation, there are different types of engineers. There's some engineers that kind of study traffic flow, and they design traffic signalization. They design other types of like ramp metering. Like, I don't know if you've been to cities and it looks like a traffic light that's on the on ramp.
Atlanta has a lot of that where you like,
those are ramp meters. So it tries to regulate the flow of traffic onto the system so that you can prevent bottlenecks in traffic. So that's what we mean by traffic control. And so there are those types of engineers, and they might work with infrastructure, like embedding sensors into the infrastructure to kind of manage flow and Earlier you talked about traffic signals that the timings can be different. They can have on-demand traffic signalization where it adjusts the signalization timing according to the flow of traffic.
Wow.
Right. So you have those types of systems, or you can have pre-timed, meaning that it's a fixed time. So you have those types of engineers. I'm not that. So I don't do traffic control. I had to learn a little bit of it in school, but I don't do that. Then you have more sort of systems people who they study routing, right? So we look at sort of how many trips people will take, right? So say they were looking at the city of Detroit. We want to be able to estimate how many trips are people taking. What's the traffic volume? The next question is where are people going, right? So if downtown Detroit, you have apartments and stuff. How many people are leaving downtown Detroit and traveling elsewhere, right? So where they're going. We call that trip distribution. And then what are the modes that people are taking, right? So are they driving? Are they walking? Are they taking transit? And then finally, how are they routing themselves, right? Because there's going to be like a certain number of ways that you can get, say, from downtown to Highland Park, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of different routes. So the routing is a big question. And that helps for planners to, make sure that they're managing freight, correctly. If they make sure that they understand what are the routes that they should be taking, this goes into, when you are maintaining those roads and the infrastructure, making sure that they can sustain the demand for different types of travel. So all of these things, these planning activities are connected to our understanding of traffic flows, volumes, the purposes that people are traveling for, and so forth. So you have those types of systems engineers. Then you have engineers like me who focus on people. So we focus on the choices that people make. So why do people live where they live? Why do they travel to the places that they go? Why do they use the modes of transportation that they do? Is it because of the cost, right? Like, do you use transit because of cost sensitivity and you don't have access to a car? Or are you choosing to use transit because you are concerned about the environment and you're an environmentalist and so you want to limit your use of
carbon footprint?
Yeah, you want to limit your carbon footprint. So I'm the type of engineer that focuses on the people side of engineering. If we design this system, how are people going to respond, right? If we change something about the system and the design, what is that going to mean for how people use the system? Are we going to have more people attracted to this service? Are we going to have fewer? Are they going to change the time of day that they travel, right? So I'm interested in all of these questions because it helps us to effectively plan for transportation infrastructure, and it helps us to understand what types of projects are going to satisfy and address needs of travelers.
That's deep. I love that you were able to break a lot of that stuff down. This is it's like, man, we live it, we're thinking it more because clearly in this motor city, we're more, you kind of, as they say, you need a car in Detroit, just the way it's laid out for many reasons. But definitely, you're giving some key insights into like stuff that we need to follow more of.
So your question was, about what are the things that excite me, and so I wanted to sort of
give the overview,
and my specific area of study has to do with, I think I mentioned, so performance assessment, right? So this is we're engaging in planning. We're trying to understand how to whether we need to add a new lane or take away a lane, right? For I-375, they're, doing scenario analyses to understand what's going to be the picture of this piece of infrastructure that's going to continue to support demand. It's going to, try to support sort of restorative justice and give back something that was taken. So we're trying to meet multiple objectives. And so my interest is in making sure that in that process where we're assessing like the benefits of a certain infrastructure design, that we have rich and meaningful indicators of community benefits, that we understand how these benefits are going to be distributed across the population. So in my line of work, we call that equity analysis,
Wow.
where we're trying to understand the distribution of benefits across communities and ensure that we are not overly burdening communities that are more vulnerable, right? That's the legacy of the interstate highway system in this country, right? So for those who may not know, when they were rolling this out back in the 50s and 60s, there's, in every major city, there's a story of a Black community that was raised or displaced. So here was I-75 in Minnesota and in Rondo, in St. Paul. The community of Rondo was displaced by I-94. In Oakland, there's a stretch of highway in every major city where, for whatever reason, the land that they acquired for building that infrastructure, the right of way, was taken from a Black and immigrant community. And there's a lot of study on this. They call it, sort of restorative justice to try to redress environmental justice issues in transportation. And so the I-375 project is one of those, right? Because that was the Black bottom community that was displaced. And I actually talk a lot about that story in my work. And I'll just say quickly, it's because of the scale of impact. So in most cities, maybe you'll have 1,000 households, right, that were impacted. In Detroit, we're talking about the entire Black bottom. You're talking about between 200 and 300,000 residents that were impacted by the construction of I-375. So that's the same size as like St. Louis or Tampa, Florida, right? So you're talking about a whole city that was displaced in order to make way for infrastructure. And then at the same time, they weren't able to freely relocate where they wanted to, right? Because there was redlining, there were neighborhood, there was, housing discrimination that prevented them. So this was a really tough situation. There's a lot of documentation on it. I'm going to forget the names of the projects, but, you can, do a little bit of research and you can actually listen to narratives, right? Of households that were impacted. My own family was impacted. That's another thing that I talk about in some of my presentations. I show a map and I show where my grandmother lived as a child, which is across from St. Jehoshaphat's Church, which is still there, off of I-75. She lived across. She has stories that she would tell us about her looking into the church. And so we have an idea of where she lived on Hastings Street. And, she too was impacted. They had to, they had very little time to kind of pack up and get out of Dodge, right? There are audio accounts or interviews of people who said that they woke up and there were bricks coming through the window, right? So they were given no time at all.
Like no notice.
Pack up their lives, and get out, which is crazy.
And definitely shout out to, I got to send an email to that, but shout out to Black Bottom Archives and all the work they've done in reference to that. It's currently an exhibit at the Detroit Historical Museum of Black Bottom Archives, and I believe it'll be there through March, I believe. But really, it's very immersive. We've heard these stories, but now you kind of are seeing in your work, like all of the layers of having a better understanding of a lot of this. And clearly, a lot of traders is like, because it's Black folks. And a lot of times
it's important. It's important, so, thank you for raising it. I believe it's the same one that I was thinking about. There's an interview by Councilwoman, our past Councilwoman, Joanne Watson.
That's like my guy.
She talks about her experience. And it's just, it's a really powerful project that weaves together all of these stories so that you can really see and understand how people were impacted and how it still lives with us today, right?
And also, it's not that far. It's not long ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like right there. You know what I'm saying?
Not that long ago. It's not about, this is something that was far in the past. It's a part of our living memory.
Yes.
Right? People remember, right? Even if you weren't there, you heard story after story from your parents or grandparents about what happened. So many of us in Detroit are still living with the impacts of what was done when they constructed I-375.
Very much so. And I mean, even it's so funny because like where I stay is right very close to the Davidson Freeway, the world's first freeway. I got pictures of my mom being like a kid playing down in the pit.
Wow.
Of them building Davidson, and that displaced people. The build of what happened with 96 displaced a lot of people. Like it's a lot of things. I mean, even one of the interviews I did with Mudu of a lot of what happened with 8 Mile when, Center Line back when it was there, because it used to be like on the other side was nothing but like farmland and everything, but that impacted a lot of people. So it's layers of like, what the choice. So knowing now that you can add and substantially connect to, y'all know how much we talk about it, especially in public comment, the community benefits, ordinances and agreements that stand of like, this is what it should look like. Even as Henry Ford's expanding to their cancer center, and that's changed some of the streets over there, because also things like that sometimes like play a pattern in all of this stuff.
All of these things are connected, and I have to go back to community engagement, and it's one of those things that it's boring. It's a task, right? But even if you can't go to the whole meeting, but you can stop by and write some notes and leave them, or stop by and say, I'm for this project because of X, Y, and Z, or I'm against this project because of X, Y, and Z, and then dip out because you got to go pick up your kids and get dinner. That is still invaluable, right? Because in absence of that, planners don't have recorded information that they should be leaning on to guide the designs of these projects, right? So it's like, I think that we should be flooding these meetings, even if it's a drive-by. Like, okay, I wrote some notes, I'm gonna ball it up and throw it in the door. Do whatever you can, because these are really the only opportunities to do that. And at the very least, these, the planners won't be able to say, we didn't know, right? It's important to overwhelm them with information, especially these projects that are in the communities, right? It doesn't mean go out and be against everything. It doesn't mean that you should be saying, this is what I want the infrastructure to look like. It means what you should be doing is letting them know how you are impacted, how your life is impacted. That's the most important thing that community members can do to be involved and to help guide these projects.
I told you guys this was a guest I was waiting on for a long time. Now y'all understand. Y'all understand.
Yeah.
So this is going to definitely help us as a lot of things are changing in this footprint of this city. And really, as you speak of this, it's a little bit of engineering, but also kind of into like some anthropology, kind of coming together, connecting, or sociology, which is of anthropology.
So cultural anthropology, it's all connected because, as engineers, like I'm also one of those sort of interdisciplinary researchers where we're trying to learn what we can about investigative work, right? How do we learn about communities' experiences, how they experience the infrastructure and the changes? That's how we come up with measures that are going to be meaningful, right? Yeah. And not just relying on sort of like, traffic times and volumes, right? That's pretty simplistic. We want to know that, 80% of the businesses will be shut down for a year.
Yeah.
Right. We want to know that, if we're looking at the overall picture, if you're coming from Roseville to downtown, you're fine because you're just shooting up 94. But if you live off of Gratiot, and Van Dyke, then your travel time has ballooned from 5 minutes to, 45 minutes. So we want to know how you are impacted by construction, by the final project. These are the really important things that we don't hear enough about and that we don't have enough information on to include in the planning process in a more standard sort of, best practices way.
Yeah. I love it. And as we get to a close, and thank you so much for this one. Classic Detroit is different questions now.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Your very first car, as we talk about.
Ooh-wee.
And what year did you get it?
Yes.
And what type of car was it?
Yes. I had a baby blue 88 Oldsmobile.
Okay. 88 Oldsmobile. All right. When did you get it?
The year was 94. The car year was 94. I got it in... This would have been 2004.
Okay. All right. So it had 10 on it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it had 10 on it. So it was my mom's car.
Okay.
And that was a smooth ride.
Okay.
I mean, I call her Betsy, back when we were naming our cars.
Yeah, you got
Betsy was my girl. She sat in the driveway for a few years.
Okay.
I came home from college. I'm like, I need a car.
Uh-huh.
I worked that summer at the Shule.
Okay.
I taught elementary school math for the whole summer so I could get the transmission for this car that was sitting. I think I still didn't have enough. My grandmother gave me the last like $300.
Shout out to grandma.
Shout out to Mary Kay. And I was able to get the car done, buy new wheels, drove that bad boy from Detroit back to FAMU.
Oh, for real, Tallahassee?
Smooth ride.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And took another Shule daughter, so Shelby Bennett. Shout out to Shelby. She came to FAM that next year after me, and so I helped drive her to school in this car. So that's a whole nother story. But, so lots of connections, to the Shule. The Shule has provided so much for me. It's like I can't even, thank you doesn't even begin to express, my gratitude to.
I love it.
What Mommy Money did.
I love it.
But yeah, so that was my first car. And she served me well.
I'm with it.
Served me well. Yeah.
I'm with it. All right, next question. You're the DJ at the end of the fireworks at Woodward and Jefferson. You get to play 2 songs. What songs you playing?
Ooh. Oh, end of the fireworks. So this is a hard one. For me. Let's see. So Sounds of Blackness.
Okay. which be optimistic.
As long as you keep your head to the sky.
I'm with it. I love that song.
2 songs. Let me see. And let me think. That's the one that's in my head right now. Probably I have an old heart. I have a whole music heart. So probably some Aretha Franklin. I'm a Aretha baby. I probably could sing through all her songs myself. Yeah.
So you're not picking one?
Yeah. So
I would pick. I know if I'm picking Aretha, for then I'm playing Rock Steady because we're gonna be partying.
Rock Steady. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
She
That
get a little funky with that.
Oh yes. Rock Steady, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. All right. Last question. You could rename Woodward after one Detroiter. Who would it be and why?
Ooh. Okay. Honestly, I would name it after Coleman Young, our first Black mayor.
He is the most spoke about, but why for you?
Yeah. Coleman Young was actually a member of my church, New Calvary Baptist Church.
Wow.
And the church was very active in his campaign. And yeah, I just remember reading about him and understanding the tone that he took and how he really changed the tone for what was Detroit, but also Black Detroit, where, like we are, we're going to be self-determining, right? We're going to, do for ourselves. We're going to, continue to build and grow despite, the things and the forces that come against us. So I loved his attitude. I was very young, when he was around, but, I've read quite a bit about him. And the one thing that I take away is, the force that he was and the tone that he set about self-determination. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Doctor. Coming in here dropping some knowledge. I'm gonna definitely be reaching out and connecting you to some people that I know, because I think what you offer and what you connect with would only add more to what they're doing. As y'all have had these questions for forever in Detroit, you like, damn, they're working on this road again.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, is anything changing? Is anything improving? Like, that's the kind of the nature of transportation. Things take a long time, but there's a lot of opportunity to be involved. So
I'm with it. Yeah. I'm with it. With that, peace.
Detroit is different.